The Pittsburgh Penguins got the New York Rangers 2025 first-round pick, and now all hell can break loose. I am Dan Kingerski on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms. I surprised myself for doing this live on X, as well as we'll be posting it to YouTube, and I'm going to take it off of X. So here's the deal. We're going to talk about the Rangers first-round pick and all of the doors that opens up, as well as maybe a little bit supercilious, but if I were Kyle Dubas, we're going to get into a handful of things that I would pursue if I were in his chair. And you might even be glad that I am not by the end of it. So let's first talk about the New York Rangers surrendering their pick. Hi, there I am. So a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought the Rangers would bet on themselves, bet on having a better 25-26 season, and thus keeping their 2025 pick. Chris Drury goes the other way for good reason, actually. There were multiple reasons why the Rangers did give up the first-round pick, and actually, the more I thought about it, the better idea it was. Because first of all, if the Rangers want to go after J.J. Peterka or one of these high-priced RFAs, they need their 2026 first-round pick. That's probably maybe the biggest thing as I think about it. And second, if it all goes sideways, if Mike Sullivan and JT Miller clash or they can't move, Mika Zibanejad or Shesterkin gets hurt and they're left with some hodgepodge in goal and they have a lottery pick in 26, well, you don't want to give away your Willy Wonka golden ticket to Gavin McKenna. So for all of those reasons, the Rangers coughed up their 2025 pick. Now, what this means, dun, 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 is the Penguins now have the 11th and 12th overall pick in the first round on Friday. I know, it's 3 days away from the time we record this or from the time we are talking. It just kind of crept out of nowhere, didn't it? So with 11 and 12, I know a lot of people's first reaction is, oh, they can trade up. Actually, they can. I'm going to share the screen here. And here is the Puckpedia Perry Pick Calculator. So you can see what 11 and 12 are worth to the analytics crowd. Point value. The Penguins' 11 and 12 picks are worth just about 62 points. Now, conversely, if we start talking trade up, a minor trade up, not so minor, but less than, is the Boston Bruins at pick 7. That would guarantee the Penguins one of those 8 blue chip players. I think for most of this year, I've been saying 6, with Roger McQueen's health improving, with Brady Martin's stock going through the roof because, well, quite frankly, because of Sam Bennett and the Stanley Cup run. With those things happening, I think the blue chip line has been moved back to 8. So if the Penguins were to jump, let's just say to 7, you can see a disparity in value there. You're not giving picks 12 and 11 for pick 7. You'd have to give much less if Boston were willing. And since the Boston Bruins and Seattle Kraken at number 8 are trying to get better immediately, well, now that presents an interesting scenario in which the Penguins might be able to give up a veteran as part of a foundation of a trade. I'm not saying Rickard Rakell and number 12 for number 7, but I am saying as part of a foundation for a trade. Now, if you really want to know what 11 and 12 are worth, the Utah Mammoth, as we'll take a look here, have the 4th overall pick, and that's just about what 11 and 12 would buy you. Number 4, maybe number 5. The value would be a little bit disproportionate. You can see there 62 versus 55. But the reality is if you're trying to jump up in this draft, you're gonna overpay. So that's kind of the framework for trading up. We start talking about Rickard Rakell. We start talking about one of those 2 first-round picks. Quite frankly, if I'm Kyle Dubas, I'm trying the veteran and 1 first-round pick to jump into that 7 or 8 spot. I would even, not for Ricard Raquel, jump up to number 9, where I think you could at least get Roger McQueen. Suddenly, Roger McQueen has become sort of a consolation prize to everybody else after Jake O'Brien and Brady Martin and James Hagans, who is falling rapidly. Hagans, I think the last 3 mock drafts have him going to Boston at 7. Incredible, isn't it? So that's what we're looking at there. Like I said, if I'm in that comfy leather chair of Kyle Dubas, actually, I have these glasses are pretty much these are a little bit Dubas-esque, right? That's the first thing I'm doing. I'm not going all the way up to number 4. I know a lot of you are like, wow, Porter Martone. I'm not going all in for Martone, not for a power forward. Sorry, I'm not going there. However, I would jump up for a James Hagans, McQueen, Jake O'Brien, Brady Martin. Get one of those 4, you're walking away from the draft pretty well. And, oh, by the way, and you've got a second pick. Now, with that number 12, we start talking about some of the second and borderline third tier names in this draft. Keshawn Atchison. I was shocked at the polarity of opinions from the fan base on him. I thought you all were going to love him. I mean, here is a rough and tumble head-hunting physical defenseman. And I must say you all were split on him. He did put up, I think, 55 points in 62 games this season. So he's got some offensive flair. He's not going to score 55 points in the NHL. But if you've got that kind of pop in juniors, you should be good for 30, 35 points in the NHL when you put it all together anyway. You also start talking about Jackson Smith at that 11 or 12 pick. I must say, with the way these last few mock drafts have kind of broken or fallen out, you might be looking at both of those guys anyway. Bob McKenzie had Radim Materka going at number 9. And all the centers being gone. It was pretty much a worst-case scenario for the Penguins, the way Bob McKenzie sort of drew it up. That's why I like trading into that 7 or 8 spot. Let's go number 2 here. If I were Kyle Dubas, I am working my butt off over the next couple of days for this guy. I can't say the relationship is broken. I can't say there ever was a great relationship. It just never meshed. 2 years, never meshed. All right, fine. So let's do something about it. I think the next couple of days. There are 2 schools of thought on Erik Karlsson. The first being try to move him for whatever you get. I think that is more centered in Pittsburgh. Some of the national thought from the outside looking in is sit and wait. Wait for teams to get skunked on July 1st. Wait for teams to be needing something. And then actually get a little bit of a return for Erik Karlsson. I am of the first camp, actually. I don't think Karlsson will bring you a significant return this summer. And the reason for that is, some of you might turn the video off right now when I say this, the respect for Mike Sullivan around the league and the disparity or the disconnect between Karlsson and Sullivan's system and the way the Penguins wanted to play. Fair or not, Karlsson probably takes a little bit more blame around the league than does anybody else for the Penguins' faceplant, especially this year. So I'm working hard. The few teams I'm looking at for Karlsson, and of course he has a say in this matter. I'm going straight back to Carolina. Eric Tulsky, the GM there, was a finalist for Karlsson 2 years ago. He was right there with the Penguins. They pulled out, or they realized they were going to lose and the Penguins won, but Carolina was the other team vying for Karlsson's services. The way Carolina plays, I think Karlsson actually would be a wonderful addition. If they can fit Brent Burns into that, plugging Erik Karlsson in actually probably gives them a greater offensive dimension. And let's be honest, Carolina plays such a great team defense that some of Erik Karlsson's foibles probably get covered up. He adds such an electric dimension to them. And they are so hungry in Carolina, I think, for star players. Jake Gensel said, "Oh, this is great. I'll see you guys. Yeah, I'll see you around." Mikko Rantanen didn't even bother saying, "Oh, this is great." He got there and was like, "Nope, I'm out." Who else am I thinking of? People are talking about Mitch Marner getting a big deal from Carolina, and I think he'll spurn them as well. So Karlsson might be the best that Carolina can do in terms of wild offensive star power kind of player. A couple other teams I'm looking at. Seattle wants to jump forward. Seattle needs some star power badly. They've gone through 3 years now, made the playoffs once, very disappointing this season, and they really don't have a ticket seller. They don't have an offensive driver. They've got some depth. There's just a lot Seattle doesn't have, but they want to be very competitive now. Can they be talked into Erik Karlsson? I think they could. The third team, I don't know that Erik Karlsson would accept a deal to, but the third team would be the best fit for him in my eyes anyway, and that's the Columbus Blue Jackets. Talk about a deep and hungry team that really needs a player like Karlsson. They need a star there. They badly need to get over the hump. I mean, they finally made the playoffs for a couple of years with John Tortorella, and they've sort of kind of gone through this scramble rebuild since the Mike Babcock fiasco, and they've just undergone some tragedy, a couple of tragedies, really. They need something good. I'll cut to the chase there. Columbus needs something good, and I think they would roll out that red carpet for Erik Karlsson, and they were right there this year. If you're a GM, if you're Don Waddell, you start looking, wow, maybe this guy can push us over the top. And look, Don Waddell was in Carolina when they started the Erik Karlsson pursuit. Take it for what you will. But I'm working hard on that for the Penguins because I want to clear that spot. I want to have some lineup certainty going into the draft, into free agency, and the upcoming trade season. I want to clear that spot. I want to be able to tell Chris Letang, get in shape, get ready for next season. You're the number one guy again. I want to put that back on his shoulders, but I also want that space for Harrison Brunick. I want that space for Jack St. Ivany. I want it for Ryan Shea. I want it for one of these guys to come in and claim it and be able to set my blue line. Quite frankly, I want my blue line to be better, and I don't think the Penguins need more offensive firepower to make their blue line better. They would improve just by becoming average, an average defending team. All right, that's number 2. And number 3, dun, dun, dun. Let's talk some trades because there are some salary dump and buyout candidates. Let's go back to Carolina. Let me share the screen here real quick. I wrote this morning, and then the Penguins just started dumping news and, the draft pick and then the preseason schedule. No, not Nick Suzuki there in the Habs sweater. The guy beside him. I was just incredibly impressed with him way back in the bubble, really, when Montreal beat the Penguins. Kotkaniemi really does have number 2 center, shut down defensive number 2 center potential. But because he's got, let me scroll down here real fast, he's got a ton of years left. He's got 5 more years at $4.8 million. That means, I know he's on some of the buyout list. I can't see Carolina doing that. I'll scroll up here to the picture so you can look at something better. I can't see Carolina buying him out at that kind of crazy cost because it would be 10 years, but he is only 24, which means he would be a 1/3 buyout. So their buyout would be like $500,000 for the next 10 years. Or actually, I think it goes up to $1 million eventually. Nevertheless, any team acquiring him, because he doesn't fit in Carolina. It's a bad match in Carolina. Bad match in Carolina. But I just felt like he was a better player in Montreal. I see potential there to go get him. I see a bad contract swap potential for Kotkaniemi. Can you say Ryan Graves? Heck, let's go back and visit Erik Karlsson. I know I'm playing armchair GM. We're having some fun here. What the heck? It's a couple days before the draft. You can all hold this against me for a couple of years when I'm wrong. One of those two. Graves has 4 more years at 4.5. Karlsson, a couple more years at the 10 million. If you can pull something like that off, that is very similar to what Washington did last summer, although actually a lot less risky. Washington picked up Pierre-Luc Dubois, who had 7 years remaining on his pretty hefty contract. They plugged him into the lineup, and look what happened. Washington just seemed to find it this season, resurgent very quickly. And it's because they gambled and won on players like Dubois. I think Dubas could gamble and win on Kotkaniemi. The other player, in the article, I'll share that. I'll go back to sharing this real quick. The other couple of players I put in the article, I wasn't real keen on including Tyler Bertuzzi on the potential bad contract swap for bad contract, unless they can make that Ryan Graves for Bertuzzi flip. That's the only way I would do that. Bertuzzi has managed to get over 20 goals in the last couple of seasons in Toronto and Chicago, but yet everyone seems entirely disappointed with his production, with his physical play, with just sort of everything. He's getting bigger numbers because of bigger roles. On a better team, he's not getting those roles. He's only got 3 years left at $5.5 million. So that really is kind of a wash with Ryan Graves. Look, Chicago might very well see that, hey, Graves was a solid defenseman in Colorado. Unspectacular, but solid. Same thing with New Jersey. And say, okay, we need some defensive help. We could use some bigger guys, and we're not going to ask all of the things that Mike Sullivan asked of Ryan Graves. And they might even be pretty motivated to move Tyler Bertuzzi rather than paying him another $5.5 million to stick around. And the third guy I had in the article was more of a salary dump because Dallas can't take any salary back. Dallas still has to clear some money if they want to sign everybody on the list. Could the Penguins be a salary cap dumping spot for Matt Dumba, a righty defenseman? It makes sense, especially if they feel like they can move Karlsson along. And then Dumba you've got for 1 year. That gives you the chance to either put Brunick, St. Ivany. I didn't mention Connor Timmins earlier. I should have. So now you have, 3 or 4 right-handed defensemen for 2 or 3 spots. That's a lot better situation to be in if you truly want to turn the page, look to the future, especially when 3 of those 4, Brunick, St. Ivany, and Timmins, I would consider young guys. St. Ivany is somehow a young guy, despite the fact he's a little bit older. He just, he went back to college, got his degree, and did all of that, and kind of came to pro hockey maybe a year or 2 later than we're used to. So he's a little bit older. He's that 25 plus category. He's actually, is he a few months older or a few months younger than Timmins? And you don't think of it that way. You get my point, though. Brunick, Timmins, St. Ivany, kind of pulling it all full circle. That's why you deal Carlson. You get to plug those young guys in and see what you got. Maybe you can deal Graves, guaranteeing some more ice time. If you can go find some left-handed defensemen as you start dealing away veterans. All of that are the things I would do if I were in Kyle Dubas's chair. I can't tell you who they should draft because I don't know who will be available at 11 and 12. I'd love to. I think we should all, I think you should prepare for the worst case scenario, and that is all of the centers are gone by pick number 10. At that point, I think the Penguins do take Jackson Smith and Kashan Atchison. What the heck? Get a couple of defensemen. That's where they're weakest. Center and defense. So if you can't get some pivots, get some blue liners. Start stocking up if those are the two best players. Although, I say this with a little bit of caveat. If I'm Kyle Dubas, I turn slowly over to Wes Clark, who seems to be a little bit of a draft guru. He's been able to find some second-round picks. Matthew Nice, Easton Cowan was at the end of the first round. These are really good picks. And I'm saying, okay, who? I don't mind reaching with that pick 12, whether that's Cole Reshny or one of the more physical centers projected around 20. If Wes Clark likes them, I like them. And that's just how it goes. Hey, thanks, X people, for watching this. I'm going to put this on YouTube now. Like and subscribe, or hey, follow me on Twitter. We're going to have some fun on Friday. We still don't quite know the schedule of events or where we are covering the NHL draft. The Penguins are putting something together. I've heard, I assume, otherwise, whether we're at the arena or Cranberry. But either way, no matter where it's at, Pittsburgh Hockey Now has got you covered. All right, kids, have fun.